Go.
All right, hey guys, welcome back to Unapologetically Me. That
There you
word's
go.
hard to say. I am your host, Brandi, and I have my interim guest host
Yep.
that's with me again this week. My other person that was going to be with me, they had to cancel the last minute, so we're still going to get them back on because we were going to talk about some really interesting things. But we still got some interesting things to talk about. So Trent's back with me. I appreciate him kind of stepping in, especially last minute, because I told him right when I got here that I needed him. So
There you go.
he
Here for
jumped
it all.
in. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good, low key, pretty chill, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah, same. That's
Yeah.
pretty much how mine was. Didn't do a whole lot. My mother-in-law cooked. We still have food left over like
Right.
5 days later. Probably should get rid of some of
Yeah,
that.
probably pushing it just a touch. Yeah.
Yeah, just a
Same,
little
same,
bit.
same.
So I have a few topics that we're going to cover today that I think are going to be interesting, especially getting a male perspective on it, because a lot of it is kind of gender issues. So did you work in the corporate world before?
Yeah, I have some
What like type of jobs did you have?
sold cars.
Oh, that's a rough one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Sold cars, and I helped run a self-storage like operation in Nashville for a while. That was not super corporate, but kind of corporate.
Yeah.
I mean, they were definitely about their money. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, it's probably the best examples I got.
Okay.
Not the best, probably, but
That's
where
what you
I'm at.
did.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in child welfare services, so that's kind of not really an area where your pay is based on anything. I mean, even sometimes it wasn't even based on performance, depending what their budget was. And that was probably my only corporate job, except a drug treatment center, which also, I mean, a lot of their stuff was based off insurance. So it wasn't really an area where you had like men and women and is this person making more or this person making more.
Right.
But that's been kind of a big thing that's been on all the agendas and stuff, like what about the wage gap? And I had statistics before, totally because this was last minute, I don't have them now. But like the big thing about the wage gap between men and women in just career fields in general.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that because I try to see like, and maybe it's because I haven't been in that job, but I don't see the wage gap as far as like I know they talk about in entertainment, like men make more than women and stuff, but I feel like there's a lot more that goes into it than just men make more than women.
Yeah.
So if you take Grey's Anatomy for one, the girl that plays Meredith, I can't think of her name right now, but she was like one of the top earners on TV.
Yeah.
Out of men and women.
Right.
So I don't really understand like the wage gap because I feel like it depends on so many different things. It depends on your performance. It depends on how long you have been in that career field. Like I don't think if you have like a George Clooney and a brand new actress in the same movie, like of course they're not going to get paid the same. Like, and that might be a drastic example, but I feel like everything else. I mean, if you're a doctor and you graduate at the same time, you get a job at the same hospital, like is that somewhere that like the male doctor would make more? Like if you're coming in with the same exact.
Unfortunately, yeah. Honestly, I think so. I think that's kind of like the more, or even like CEO type roles. I think there's some pretty big differences in that space too.
What makes you think that?
I mean, it's just pretty well documented. I've seen a lot of the, I don't know, I probably shouldn't say well documented, but a lot of the, I mean, you can just hear personal stories from folks too. Like I did this, this, and this. I was in this position to do X, Y, Z. A guy that was less qualified, blah, 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 got the job, got paid more, whatever. So obviously not a fan of it. I think it should, there's definitely steps we can take to get better in those regards, but yeah, it's definitely a real thing.
I do think that there are situations where somebody less qualified gets a position because a lot of businesses have their quota that they have to have so many females in this position, so many minorities in this position, which I also am like have mixed feelings on that because I'm a minority all the way around. Like I'm as minority can get. Like I'm a veteran, I'm a biracial woman.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
that checks several boxes.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't want a position just because I check all the boxes.
Right.
Like, I want a position because I earned it and I deserve it.
Right.
So for me, the whole businesses have to meet this quota and you have to have XYZ, like, I think it should be based off your qualifications. I don't think it should matter. We have to have so many females. And I get why they were trying to do that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, how does that, if they're not qualified, what does that do to your business?
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean? If I don't know what I'm doing, but you hired me because I'm a minority, but I don't know what's going on, like, I feel like that negatively can affect your business.
Definitely.
So I have mixed feelings on that. And the wage gap thing, I mean, I don't know anybody that's been like in that situation. So I'd be interested to hear their story because I do know, like, they talk about it a lot in sports too.
Yeah, sports is a big one for sure.
And my thing about that is, and I know it's not just based off revenue because I had somebody comment on one of my posts before that she has a degree in sports management or something.
Mm-hmm.
So she was explaining like how they determine, how much they get paid and stuff. But if you even look at the simple fact of the revenue, like, how much does the WNBA bring in as opposed to the NBA?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a pretty solid. I mean, that's where it kind of stops for me sometimes in that regard.
Yeah, because it's like if you're not producing the revenue, like, I can't afford to pay you what the NBA makes.
Yeah. And just like a globally recognized figure like LeBron versus the biggest WNBA star, it's just different.
Yeah.
I mean, they can probably walk down the street a little differently than LeBron can.
Right.
So
they're not going to have all the fan base.
Right.
But one area that I will say that I think is unfair is in bodybuilding.
Okay.
So I can't remember. It was a few years ago, maybe 2018 or 2019. I looked up, that's when I had first started doing bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And so it was close to the Mr. and Mrs. Olympia time. And then, they had the whole show. And the first place winner for Mr. Olympia, I think, got and I probably have the numbers wrong. So I'm just giving figures, but this is like the drastic difference.
Yeah.
I think maybe he won like $800,000.
Jeez.
Again, I could be completely off on that, but I think it was somewhere around there.
Yeah.
The first place Mrs. Olympia won $40,000.
Yeah. See?
So, and let me just say, nobody is paying to go watch a man in a G-string.
Hey, facts.
Like,
sorry, I don't know if I don't know
they are paying to go see a female in a skimpy bikini, and what her body looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm just like, that right there, and the amount of money that it costs for a female bodybuilding competitor is outrageous.
Yeah,
like,
I can only imagine.
Oh, it's a lot of money. Like, you have to pay for your suit, you have to pay for your tan, your hair, your makeup, your nails, your jewelry, your entry fee, like, on top of your coach, your posing coach, your food.
Years and years of training.
It's that $40,000 that she won, she probably spent in like 2 shows.
Oh yeah, easily.
So, and granted, I mean, once you become a pro, like, you might have sponsors and stuff, but still, like, you can't say that those women are not bringing in revenue.
And that, I mean, what about like the soccer team, like the women's soccer team, like exponentially more successful, and they still got paid, I think, like half.
Yeah.
And now they said something like this coming year, it's like the first time it'll be equal.
I heard that.
Which is awesome, but it's way overdue and really messed up anyway.
And I don't know as far as like their fan base, like how much they bring in.
It like the women is exponentially more. Like that's when it's like WNBA. It flips.
Got you.
Yeah,
okay.
So, like,
which see, those instances to me are crazy. Like, that would be somewhere where I'm like, okay, there's a huge. I just don't think that it can be generalized. I guess that's my
can't
thing.
Be across the board. Yes. I don't think. Yeah, you're right.
And I feel like that's kind of where it's at, is like, across the board, like, men.
You got to be 50-50 everywhere. I'm with you there.
Yeah, it's just, and it's not realistic.
Right.
I guess is what.
There's probably there's probably some professions where women make a lot more than men do.
Right.
Not a lot of them come to mind right off the bat.
I think even though we're in, I don't know what century this is. What is this?
21st still.
21st century.
I think we'll be there for a while. So.
I'm so bad at all of that stuff.
Pretty sure it's 21st. It's fine.
That's funny. Anyways, I think that for a lot of people, like, women working or bringing in an income is still a fairly new thing.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy. because my mom worked on and off when I was growing up. But it was never like that my dad wanted her to be a stay-at-home wife or that she wanted to. And honestly, she was not the best at it.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of stress for her.
Right.
But I feel like that's like a fairly new thing as well. So I don't know, maybe it's something that's trying to figure out like how much, because I also think that like people need to know how to do their resume. And that could probably potentially help with how much you get paid, because people forget that like if you are a stay-at-home mom, you're basically running a business.
100%.
Yes, you have to manage the finances. You have to organize like the family life. You have food,
schedules.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like,
salute to the moms.
Yeah, you could really be a CEO of a company because all the stuff you're doing, you've done for however many years you were a stay-at-home mom.
1000% agree.
Granted, if you didn't do that well, that's also a different story. But if you know how to word your resume to show all of that, and you know how to verbalize it, that could be the difference right there.
Expert.
Yeah.
Scheduling or like coordination, logistics, all the things. Yeah, just using different words instead of
instead of I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years, but like that's not all you were.
Right.
It's just people don't know how to
put
that on paper.
I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I need to learn how to do that so I can make money doing it for people.
Honestly, I mean that's part of what some of the stuff you do, right? Sorry, not to flip the script here.
No, you're good. No, feel free to ask questions.
Okay. I mean, that's some of the stuff you do with your, I mean, I know training and but it's coaching too, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of fits in the mold. Might be a little nugget to offer.
Yeah. Just coaching on communication, basically. So again,
communicate.
Goes back to communication. Do you know how to communicate what you've been doing the last 10 or 15 years?
You go.
In a way that's going to benefit you.
Right.
And not making up stuff that you didn't actually do.
Yeah. There's a lot of that too.
So I have a question about that, which we'll kind of go into our next thing. So what are your thoughts on like the modern day housewife, or like when you get married, is that something that you would want your wife to be a housewife? Would you want her to work? Would you, what would you want that to look like?
Man, that's a loaded question. For me personally, super blessed. My dad wanted my mom to do that. Like that was something that's what he wanted. So, and as blessed as my childhood was incredible. You know, my mom was there. Like she was one of the ones that could really pat her resume, and she did an amazing job, and was just on top of everything and all of that. So definitely I've been on the receiving end of that and know how awesome it can be. But at the same time, I feel like there's some things that might have just made my life a little too catered to growing up, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm an only child. I'll just say I'm an only child, and you know, I'm her sole responsibility. So she didn't have much else to worry about or really care about to a certain degree. So there's obviously a lot of blessings in that, but there's also a couple of you know, just as I've grown and just things that have like taken longer for me to be better. Yeah. So it's definitely comes with its pros and cons for sure. So me personally, I would probably I'm not huge on having kids right now, probably ever, just because I just don't really see it in the future. So honestly, I'd probably push for, you know, obviously some type of work and just living your truth and finding your purpose, and kind of like, I just think that's like the most important thing for us to do, period. So if that is staying home and making sure everything's perfect and all that, cool, definitely focus on that. But at the same time, if you're, I think, you know, from our current situation, my girlfriend's coaching, and that's like her truth. Like that's her, like she's living her truth. And as frustrating as it can be at times, like it's like I just constantly remind her, I'm like, you're living your truth. These kids need you more than you realize. Yeah. And it's beautiful because you can leave it there and come home and not have to do that when we're at home. So it's kind of a best of both worlds right now. So I'd probably push for that, just because it's just been really cool to see her kind of progress into that, because there was definitely some times when we were first dating that she was really struggling to find what that truth was, what that purpose was, and all
Yeah.
that. So now that she's doing it and just watching her flourish, and like her family members at Thanksgiving are like, "You're just glowing, like blah blah blah. What's different?" And I'm like, "You're living your truth." So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I would encourage anybody to do. I know that sounds super cliche, but that to me, if your truth is, you know, maintaining the household, keeping everything in check, and just making sure that's like, if that's what you're passionate about, definitely do that.
Yeah.
Make that a priority. If you have time left over to focus on a side hustle or something to bring in some income, would advocate for that too. Dual income, you know, dual income's never a bad thing. So
yeah. What is she a coach?
Volleyball, basketball, and track.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Where'd
y'all
she
should probably
coach
connect. Web.
Oh, okay. We might. What high school or middle school or?
High school volleyball, middle school basketball, and
Oh, I will probably see her then.
Yeah,
She coaches
y'all need
girls.
to connect. Yep, she does.
Yeah, we play them. I'm not sure when, but we definitely play them.
Middle school basketball.
Yeah,
yeah. Y'all probably have a field day.
Fun.
They're
I heard that's like the MTCS's like nemesis. I think.
Doubt it. They're.
Oh no, it's maybe the high school. So one of the high school girls was like, she couldn't wait for the web game.
Yeah, web high school.
It might be high school then. Okay.
Crazy. They won state last year, so they're really good.
Okay, I know one of the girls from the high school team was like, "I'm out to get web."
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh, yeah, we played Columbia Academy last night, and I guess maybe that's our nemesis for middle school because that was an intense game, which we won.
Hey, shouts! Good job, coach.
So side note question: do you have only child syndrome? Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think there's a way I couldn't. I mean, by default. I mean, I'd like, my biggest compliment over the years is like when they're surprised that I'm an only child. But
oh well, that's good.
Yeah, that's happened a lot. So I'll toot my horn.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see that.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
I don't really know exactly, but probably to a certain degree.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably a few things, but I know my cousin was grew up as an only child, and her wife say all the time that she has only child syndrome because she's like, I'm super selfish and I just want what I want. And
not really. I'm not really like I'm not really. I definitely have my things that I really need to go my way at times, but like more times than not, I'm pretty selfless and
trying to avoid the conflict.
Hey, people pleasing to a T, but no,
which is kind of the opposite of like an only child syndrome, actually.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have much of that.
That's really interesting.
It is.
Means your mom must have done a good job of like making sure that you didn't get like.
She pushed me to do stuff. Yeah, she was really good at making sure I did stuff that I was uncomfortable in and would help me grow, and social situations. So from a like really young age, I remember being like, I don't want to do that. She's like, you're gonna go do that. So shouts to my mom. She's the GOAT. Love her dearly, but touch of a helicopter mom at times, and just really overprotective still, and we still have our issues, but I mean, it's just that unconditional love that you can't get anywhere else. So,
which I think can happen, especially when you have an only child. Like, and then depending on like, not for you, but just saying people that have only children, like, was it hard for them to conceive? Like, did they have to do fertility treatment and stuff? Like, they are like determined to make sure nothing happens to that kid.
Yeah,
because that is their one and only. Like, they might not be able to have another one.
Right.
I don't know if
my dad always just was like, it's my debt to society's paid. He checked that box and he's like, I'm just gonna that's he always said that growing up. So funny. It's like, I claim him most of the time, and my debt to society's paid. So
yeah.
I'm like, dang.
So nice of you. Right. My daughter wants a sibling so bad, and she doesn't necessarily have like, I wouldn't say only child syndrome. Like, she is not super selfish. Like, she loves to share with her friends. She's extremely social, complete opposite of me, but she is very needy. Okay. Like, she needs attention and she needs my attention, and she's really clingy. And I'm just like, what are you going to do if you do get a sibling? Like, how is that going to work?
That rivalry is going to be real.
Well, she says now, obviously, because it's not here, but even if I've been around other kids, like, she would get super jealous early on. Like, maybe she was 5 and 6. She would be super jealous. Like, I went to go visit my friend, and she had 2 little girls, and I would be holding them, and she would just come and be hugging onto me and be like looking at me like, put them down. But she has a baby cousin. Yeah. Oh my God, my dog does the same thing too. Oh my God, we're crazy. But her baby cousin.
Like, no, that's enough of the attention on them. You pet me now. Yeah. No,
literally. Yeah. My dog and my child. Like, the other day I was sitting on the floor, and they're both on my hip, and I just looking at my husband like, can you do something? Get one of them away from
That's
me.
amazing. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but her baby cousin came to visit us. He just turned 2 the other day, and she didn't really get jealous of him. Like, she
Nice.
was like super tentative with him, like wanted to help him do everything.
Kind of
So
take on a mom role.
yeah,
That's cool.
so that's the other. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be one or the other. She's gonna be either be really jealous or
it's a combo.
probably depending how she feels that day.
And it's just like I'm sure it's just like a progression thing too. Like this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm stuck with this thing.
Right. So probably.
I mean, and she's already going to be 8, so I feel like it would she would feel like she had like a motherly role also, because she'd be so much older
and protecting like that age. Yeah, that's a pretty good. Yeah, you're right.
But I don't know if that's happening. We'll see.
Time will tell.
Yeah. So all this talk about family and relationships, I wanted to get your thoughts on love. So we have the fairy tale love from all the Disney movies, really any love story, any rom-com, anything. It's like, you always know the guy gets the girl at the end. There was one movie, and I don't remember what it is, but I loved that movie because the guy didn't get the girl at the end.
Definitely, maybe.
I think it's, no, it could be. Did that happen in that movie too?
Kind of.
I remember that movie, but I don't remember the ending.
A bit of a rom-com guy.
It could be. I did watch it. I don't remember it, but it was The Breakup.
Oh, yeah.
With Jennifer Aniston and the other guy.
Vince Vaughn,
Yeah, I was like, this is the best movie ever.
Because it actually works sometimes. Yeah.
Because I'm like, all these other movies create this fairy tale that you meet somebody and you fall in love and you live happily ever. Well, you have the drama for like 2 days and then you fall happily ever after. And I'm like, I loved The Breakup because I'm like, that is real life. Like all these other rom-coms, and I know it's a movie, but like, if you're somebody that is a hopeless romantic or something, you get swept up into that and you can't differentiate that like this is real life and this is a movie.
Guilty.
Okay. So do you believe in the fairy tale love, or do you?
Yeah, I'm one of those for sure.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
I'm a sappy wappy lovey dovey. Yeah, always. I love love, man. Love's the strongest one. That's what the Bible says. So
that is hilarious.
I've always been. I mean, like Love Actually is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I've seen that too. I don't remember it though.
I'm a fan of love.
That is. It's not funny that you're a fan of love. It's just funny that you
phrase it that way.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely that rom-com. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
And all the like love songs and man, just love is beautiful and it's real, and I just think if you give enough away and stuff, that it always comes back 10x. So big fan of love. But I feel you on the oversaturation of just like fairy tale delusional at times, like thinking that's the only way it works, because that's not it either.
So what do you think? Okay, so do you believe in love at first sight?
Kind of, because it happened.
You saw your girlfriend and I was like, I love her.
Pretty much. We met at a very sporadic or very random meeting at the Alley. 11/4/2019. Those are 2 of my favorite numbers, so I'll never forget that. And then we basically hung out that whole week, and we've been together ever since, like through a global pandemic. All the
best time to start dating.
Man, that's debatable. But I mean, actually, we said like, or a lot of people have been like, if you get through that, you're probably good.
Right.
So
that was like the year of like
weird stuff that I was going through personally, like geriatric dog. That was like a really tough thing to deal with. I had a roommate at the time that was going through a divorce. That was a lot.
Yeah.
And she just thick and thin, just. So and I remember when I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and then she started talking about sports and music and all this other stuff. I'm like, wow, you're incredible. So when it happens firsthand, I believe in it.
That's so funny, because my husband and I know I have the complete opposite story. Like I don't know that he was like love at first. I don't know. I probably should ask him. I don't know if he was like love at first sight. But he was the one that kind of like started talking to me and stuff. But the whole time, like we met at our military training. And how many months were we there? Like, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks. The whole time he got on my nerves. I could not stand him. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to be around him. I was like, this guy is so annoying. And now 11 years later, like here we are. But it was definitely not love at first sight. It was like, this dude's so annoying.
That's really funny. I'm sure hers could be closer to that. That might just be us in general. We're good at that at times.
And he's definitely the more like sappy love one, not with everybody, more so only with me. But and we've had our hard times, of course. So you can't in 11 years like not have hard times. But actually, 2020 was like probably our best year ever.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So that was the year of like this is your make it or break it year.
Yeah.
And that was one of our best years, honestly.
Awesome.
And I mean, it's been good ever since then. But that was definitely our best year.
Yeah.
And we had been married 6 years at that point.
Wow.
So yeah, it was
That's interesting.
It was good. So do you think that love? So once you fell in love. Okay, so let me ask this question first. So you believe in falling in love?
Yeah.
Like falling in love?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't believe in falling in love.
Uh-oh.
I don't. I think that that's a
fairy tale misconception thing.
Yeah, kind of, because I'm just like, because for me, I think if you can fall in love, you can fall out of love. So if it's that easy, then was it real to begin with? Because I think that people use that as a reason to break up or get divorced. Now, growing is different. That's different than love. If you say we grew apart, that's different than I just fell out of love. Like, did you fall out of love, or did you not really love in the first place, or did you grow apart? Because I think people maybe use the incorrect term also, possibly. Like maybe it's not you fell out of love, you just grew apart. Because I definitely think if one person is growing and moving forward and like learning how to be a better person, and the other person's like, oh, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to stay where I'm at, then you definitely grow apart. But I don't think that has anything to do with love.
Yeah, that's deep. I agree with that for the most part, but I guess that moment when you like, man, I really love this person. Like, I think that's definitely a moment, and I feel like that's kind of like falling in.
So if you fall in though, then can you fall out?
I guess it's just, it's what you said. I guess it's more of the growing apart, or maybe things change, something happens. There's a lot of things that could make you fall out of love. So yeah, the way you can fall in, you can fall out. But yeah, I feel like there's that moment where you go from like, this person's really amazing to like, I will ride or die.
Yeah.
Like I got you. You're very, very special to me. This is something I'm willing to invest in. This is something I'll sacrifice for, like that type of stuff. So it just kind of goes from just that level of like infatuation or whatever that like honeymoon phase might be, to like, this is real. Like I'm ready to, like, I'm here for it. I think that's kind of when you're like, this is love versus just infatuation.
So what is it? What do you think it's called when like, so every day, is it, oh, I just love this person? Or do you feel like that's a choice you also have to make every day?
It's definitely a choice. It's a choice, but at the same time, like, that's just kind of, I feel like that's just part of the commitment, right? So like, if you are committed and you are like that person's person, like, that's just your day to day, but at the same time, you got to work at it every day.
Yeah, which that I agree with, but that I think that's why I don't believe in falling in love, is because it just seems like an easy way to get out of it. If you decide that you're not going to make that choice anymore, then it's just, there's no personal responsibility.
Yeah.
It just goes to, oh, well, I just fell out of love.
Right.
But you or the other person quit doing the things that made you love them to begin with. Yeah. So that's why I'm just like, it doesn't really have anything, not that it doesn't have anything to do with love, but falling in love is more of like a good feeling. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel excited and warm and fuzzy to be like, oh, I fell in love with this person and they're so amazing. Because when they stop being amazing, because at some point they will, when they stop being amazing for that few months, or you get used to it, then it's like, okay, every single day I have to decide that this is my person. Like, it's no longer, I don't get
the warm and fuzzies.
And not even that you don't get the warm and fuzzy every time that you see them, but it's not the same as the initial, like, oh, we just fell in love and this person is so great. It becomes an every single day I have to work at this. I have to remember why I fell in love with this person to begin with. Because when they stop doing the things that made you love them, it becomes a lot harder to stay in love with them, and you have to, and then you can just be like, well, I just fell out of love with them. Like I just don't like them anymore.
Yeah. I agree with that. But I think that also comes with keeping things fresh and, you know, pushing each other. And like you said, like just the growth, and y'all are continuing to grow. You got new goals, you got new things that you're trying to do. Like that's when it's easier to stay on track if you kind of have that intentional approach.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think intentional. We said that last time, the intent. Always being intentional. There's Michael Burt, he's this business coach, and he always talks about intentional congruity. So
it's a big word.
It is, but I love it because it talks about if
That's
you
8 syllables. 8 syllables in 2 words.
It's a lot of syllables. If you are even if you own your own business or whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that you're intentional with your time and with your family, because he's busy, but he has 2 kids and he has his wife. So when he talks about intentional congruity, it's him and his wife are intentional in their business aspect. So like when he puts on a seminar or something, she helps with the hospitality part of it. So that way they're still spending time together, they're still with each other, still around each other, and it's not like, oh, well, you're just always gone all the time, I'm just always home with the kids. And he brings his kids to the things and stuff. So just being intentional with your time and making sure that you are growing together like that. I think that that's a big thing that really helped me and my husband's like 2020 was both of us were working on growing and improving ourselves and improving our communication. And I've had to work really hard on like being more affectionate and being nicer, because I'm just a very straightforward, blunt kind of person. Like I'm not.
But that's like how you came. Is that more how you came up though? Is that like what you experienced as a kid? Because that's kind of the same for me and my girlfriend.
Like I feel like, I don't know. I think my dad, we've had this conversation before. He was very unemotionally available. He just was not an emotional guy. He wasn't necessarily mean or stern or anything. He was just didn't show his emotions. But my mom was like the complete opposite. She was like, if she was mad, you knew it. You didn't know why, but you knew she was mad.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that I was, because both of those I think can create fear in showing emotion.
Yeah.
Like I'm afraid to show emotion because I don't want to have an outburst like she did, which I absolutely used to do. Like in my early 20s, like I would have these crazy angry outbursts. And
I think we all did, man. Honestly, that's just part. Yeah, I think that's just part of. I mean, the world will just mess with your head.
Yeah.
You know, like, and there's just a lot of things that, you know, I was mad. Like I was just mad at like how stuff operated. And again, kind of the easy card, single or like white male. You know, very blunt, two parents at home. And I would just be mad.
Yeah.
Like it just how other situations were happening and how helpless you feel at times and like you want to do more and stuff like that. So I feel you. Like I feel like a lot of us go through just that time. Early 20s is like kind of that time where probably just getting into like drinking more and like doing whatever, like just, you know, partying, wilding out, doing all the craziness. And that just comes with growth and maturity.
Yeah.
But I definitely had my moments, and there's a lot of things I really regret from those years. But I think that's just part of life and, you know, getting to that next level. And now, I mean, there's still so many things that just really mess with me. Like, I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, and if I like really go down that rabbit hole, it gets weird quick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I just know now, like, I can't do that. Or like, I just have the self-control or just like go do something I can. Like go do a podcast, you know, like go talk, like that's why I do this.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about stuff that's working. Because if I get on, like, if I start thinking about politics and like all the craziness and just like the complete backwards way that so many things operate, especially right now, like I'll lose it. I'll lose my mind again, you know, like, and that's a real thing.
I did that last year. I went down all the rabbit holes, 2020. And I stopped doing it because I'm like, it was making me so negative and like feeling negative and angry all the time. And most of it, I was like, I don't even know these people. So I'm like, why am I so upset about decisions that they're making or things that are happening that I have no control over? So I was like, I'm just going to focus on what I can control, what I can do in my own life, the people that I can affect, because I'm like going down those rabbit holes was making me, like you said, it was making me crazy.
It is, yeah.
And I was
and that's
just,
by design. That's what
yeah,
a lot of it's designed to do.
exactly.
So
Yeah, so I had to stop doing that because it was just not good and it wasn't healthy. But I think, going back to answer your question, I think part of it was fear, was that when I had a kid, I didn't want to have those angry outbursts like my mom did.
yeah,
And early on I did have a few of them. Like there's one specific one that I just like will never forget. And my daughter was like, she was 2, maybe 2 or 3. And it was a couple of times I just flipped out on her. And I'm just like, and while I'm doing it, like in my head, I'm like, this is not okay. Like, you need to chill out. But I couldn't stop.
yeah,
It was just like it happened and I snapped and I couldn't stop. And I was like, I do not want to be like my mom in that aspect. Like, I don't want to get mad over something very minimal and blow up over it. I'm
yeah,
like, that's not okay and it's not healthy. And so I've gotten so much better at that. But I've been married before, and my ex, I would do the same thing to him. I would blow up over minimal stuff. And
yeah,
it was just like I told my husband the other day, I was like, if you think I'm crazy, I was like, you should have known me like when I was 20, 21, because I was a psycho.
right.
Like, and I got heavy into drinking. Like, my mom had passed away, it got divorced. This was all like
Oh,
within 2
wow.
years.
Yeah, that'll do it.
And so after that, I just flipped out even more. So I've had to work on, like, what do I need to do if I get angry or upset? Like, how can I bring my temper back down? Or how can I, like, because I can, if you listen to your body, you can feel
Oh,
those
yeah.
signs. Like,
Mhm.
my ears get red, my heart starts pounding.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so, like, okay, this is time for me to either stop this conversation or walk away
yeah,
or tell the person, like, hey, I need a minute to calm down
yeah.
because,
You don't want that smoke.
yeah,
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I
I'm with you.
went off on a side tangent, but that's
No,
okay.
you're
That
good.
was good. Um, so yeah, that's just what I'm saying about the love thing. Like, I think it's something that you have to make a choice every day. And sometimes I think, like, it's okay to love the person and not like them.
Mm,
I think that's another area that people get caught up in, is like, well, I don't like this person anymore, so that means I don't love them.
nah,
But I think there's definitely times with anybody, like, I don't like this person right now, or I don't like what they did, but that doesn't change that I still love them,
right. No, I agree with that.
and focus on that. Okay, so let me ask you this. Because there's a big thing with cancel culture going on. So would you ever cancel your significant other if they did something that you didn't agree with or you didn't like? And not something extreme, because there definitely are, like,
Yeah.
boundaries. But,
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I mean, people are so easily canceled now. So if your significant other did something, would you cancel them?
No. I mean, no.
You just no.
I'm gonna stick with that.
So
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, it would take something that I don't think she's even capable of doing.
right.
So I'll go with no.
Yeah. So how do you think, I mean, do you feel that same way about cancel culture?
All right, so Two Bottles Deep did an episode. Actually, they did 2 episodes on cancel culture, and it really
I
opened
didn't
my eyes.
listen to those.
They're good. They're so good. So first of all, again, going back to some of my earlier years, there's probably many times I could have been canceled. Like, and I'm terrified of, like, Facebook audits or something that might
Yeah.
be a thing in the future. But yeah. So full disclosure, I definitely have probably done stuff that warrants being canceled. So I just always try to extend grace
Yeah.
when I can. There's definitely some times here lately when I'm like, I'm done with that person. Like,
Yeah.
I don't support them. There's only so much you can do to, like, apologize for that type of stuff and, like, try to make right. So, man, that's tough, because, like, there's definitely times where I'm like, yeah, that's canceled. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need that. But then at the same time, like, I've been in the heat of the moment doing really dumb stuff that I could have done something similar. So I guess just putting myself in other people's shoes, like we've always been taught to do, is just kind of, it's easier said than done. And I hate just, like, the overreaction of cancel culture these days.
Yes.
Like, it's just insane a lot of times. And people are just looking to cancel
Right.
anything for anything, or anyone for anything. And yeah, there's a balance with everything. So I think there's definitely times where some of these people need to get their, get their cancel dose, take a little cancel and chill out for a while. But I also think it's getting completely ridiculous on a lot of levels, the stuff that people are looking for and trying to, make more of an issue of than really it should be. So just a balance of it all, I guess. What about you?
Did you watch Dave Chappelle? Do you like Dave Chappelle? Did you watch his last?
Chappelle. Yes.
So I'm sure you know that they try to cancel him. I thought it was hilarious.
I know it is. Sorry. You can't cancel Dave Chappelle.
That's the other thing. There's some people you just can't cancel no matter how hard you try.
Exactly. And he's the worst part. He's not wrong about most of anything. Does he say things that'll really make you mad if you're in those communities? Yes. But is he wrong? Not really.
Right. And I think
all the whole baseline for it is, he's just saying, he's ultimately saying he wishes his, like, the African-American community was kind of on the same, like, trajectory. Is that kind of the right way to put it? Like, just the progress they've made in the amount of time versus
like the LGBTQ community. Is that what you're saying?
I think.
Oh, no, I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of things that have came out of BLM that I think
counterproductive.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the intention of BLM initially, like, my husband and I have had this conversation, my brother and I have had this conversation, and I think that it's how the BLM organization is where it went wrong.
Yeah.
BLM in and of itself, as far as like police brutality and stuff like that, I think that initial concept is good. I think the organization is what made everything go left.
Super corrupt.
And a lot of it, my husband has even said, a lot of that has to do with they started focusing more about like other communities, and it stopped being about like what the initial purpose was. And so, I've seen posts from a lot of the Black community talking about like that they don't support BLM, which is funny and interesting because then you see like CNN and these other news outlets talking about how the Black community supports BLM. And I'm like, well, if you're listening to any of them, most of them don't.
Yeah.
The only ones who do are the ones getting money from it.
Right.
And so I'm like, that's not something that the community supports because they feel like it didn't do what it was initially supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But going back to the Dave Chappelle thing, I listened. I don't listen to him that often, but I was like, well, I wanted to see what everybody's so upset about. And I thought the whole thing was not only funny, but like you said, it was true. And I think people are easily offended. And so if you can't go, there was another post on Instagram, it wasn't of Dave Chappelle, but it was somebody at a comedy show. And this lady gets up on stage during the show. Did you see that?
I saw that. Yes.
She gets up onto the stage during the show talking about how the comedian is offending people. And I think he was talking about sex. And she's like, well, you're offending people in the audience. And it's like,
that was Jay Farrow, wasn't it? I think it was.
I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that. You're the problem.
I'm like, you can't go to a comedy show. Right? If you're going to get offended or if you're easily offended, don't go.
Yeah, exactly.
Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to say something racial. They're going to say something that has to do with sex. They're going to say something that has to do with LGBTQ. They're going to say something that's going to offend you if you're easily offended.
And it's funny.
And it's fun. That's how, but that's their outlet. It's no different than
comedy is an art, man. Yeah. And like Dave Chappelle's a genius on a different level. Like, again, you can't cancel him ever. Like, he's God status.
And what I love about him is that his humor is like dry humor. So funny, a lot of comedians get up and they start laughing. He laughs occasionally at his own jokes. Usually if it's just like a story about something that happened to him. But like you see other comedians get on and they're over there laughing at their own jokes. They're so funny. But his humor is so dry. And that's, I love dry humor. So like, I love when he just gets on there and like says what I say with a straight face.
Yeah.
And then just moves on.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. So I'm not a fan of cancel culture. Like
That's a problem. That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And it's just like getting more and more steam, which is even more and more annoying. So I'm with you on that.
Because my thing is, if you start canceling people, and this is a lot of what Instagram and Facebook is doing when they start censoring people. So even with the COVID stuff, like they started censoring doctors who oppose the narrative. Sketchy. My thing is, if we're trying to find a solution to a problem, you need to hear both sides. It's literally like you getting in a fight with your significant other and then y'all going to a therapist to try to fix the issue. But the therapist is like, well, I'm not going to hear your side. I'm only going to listen to this side of it.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to make the solution based off of that one side. Like that doesn't even make any sense. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you start canceling the people that are opposing the narrative, and nobody wants to ask questions. There's like well, you listen to the science and listen to these people. Okay, well, if one side of the science is canceled, like science is meant to be
Science, yeah,
it's meant to be
factual, yeah,
well factual and what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like you're supposed to challenge each other. That's
right,
if you ever read a peer-reviewed article, it literally says at the end of or should say at the end of every article, further research is needed for X, Y, and Z for
yeah,
these reasons.
hmm
But it's just like that happened, and now instead we're going to cancel people because your narrative or what you said doesn't agree with
yeah,
the whole one that we're trying to give to everybody else. And I feel like it's unfair
crazy,
to the general public who is trying to find solutions or trying to figure out, not even just with COVID, but like nutrition, everything. There was one that they were trying to cancel. I did a podcast on it early on. What is her name? She's a professional fitness like guru person. Jillian Michaels.
oh,
She did an interview, and it was when they were doing all the body positivity stuff, and she made reference to how everybody was talking about Lizzo
yeah,
and
oh, yeah, I
her
remember
body
that, yeah,
positivity
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff, and she didn't even say anything about Lizzo. She said that, um, we shouldn't be celebrating unhealthiness,
yeah,
basically. And it like everybody's like, we need to cancel Jillian Michaels. And I actually had a guest speaker on my podcast that had lost a ton of weight and stuff because I was talking about, I made a post on Facebook about like everybody started saying that she was body shaming her and like she's not on board with body positivity. And I'm like, she didn't say anything bad about Lizzo. She didn't say anything. She didn't say she was ugly. She didn't say she was fat. All she said is we should not be celebrating
which is
unhealthiness.
accurate.
Again,
Again, just
nobody
accurate.
likes
Yeah.
apparently accurate statements are like not okay.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
So she was another one that they tried to cancel. And I'm just like, I just don't understand how people jump on the bandwagon of cancel culture because I think I've said this before. I try to keep people of all walks of life, of all races, of all diversity in my social media and even in my close
Yes.
circle because I don't ever want to be in a point where I'm only hearing one side and then I just get stuck there.
Yeah.
Like I want all the information. I want to understand. I don't have to agree with you,
Yeah.
but I
Right.
want to understand where you're coming from. I want to be able to have
That's what this whole thing's
conversations
about,
about.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it
I love it.
always go back to that because I'm like, I want all the information so
Yeah.
that I can make the best decision for me. And I think that would have solved so many problems had everybody been able just to get all the information and then you do what you think is best for you. Because at the end of the day, people are kind of went the opposite direction. Like, I don't want to do any of that
Yeah. I don't want
because,
to hear from anybody except
yeah,
the people I really like. I'm like, what,
exactly.
dude? Yeah. I have an example of that.
Please share.
And so and it still bothers me to this day that and this is someone I went to high school with. It's like, there's like a core group of us, like 20, 25 of us that were just super tight basketball team, just we were boys. We were always hanging out, blah, 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 whatever. And he's since then just like gotten on uber religious, like, which is fine. You get kids and you get church and you make all these different changes, whatever. But he's like, I can only play basketball with Christians now. I'm like, what? It's still to this day. I'm just like, did you say that out? Like, you mean that? He's like, yeah, I can't. I'm just it's got to be at the church and it's got to be Christians. I'm like, bro,
Did
like
he
that's
say why?
not really. Just that, like, not really. Just like that was
Wow.
his thing. Like that was his safe space, I guess. Or maybe I don't know. Like it's still to this day. Like it just blows me away that people are like that. Because I'm like you. Like I love different. I love being around different people, hearing different things. Like if I hung out with just the same people all the time and just heard the same perspectives all the time,
Yes.
which there's some of my group of friends that are like that, and I hang out with them more and I hear some of the stuff they say more. I don't always agree with it. A lot of times I don't agree with it. But like I have to go kick it with other people.
Right.
Like I have to go just out. Like we did Philip 2 Balls Deep. We did his birthday extravaganza, and it was quite an extravaganza. I will say that, man. But it was, just a lot of different perspectives that I'm typically hanging out with, different orientations and all that type of stuff, and it was just cool. Like it's good to be outside of, I would say outside of my comfort zone to a certain degree, and just like experiencing different things and just having different conversations, and the podcast has been incredible for that. Like, talking to Abdu with Murfreesboro Muslim Youth and hearing like their passion for this community and like just knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're Muslim.
Yeah.
Cool. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And I think like if there's people will be like, well, it's like ulterior motives. I'm like, who cares? Like, look at what they're doing. Like, look at the impact they're having. So I don't know, man. I'm passionate about, like you said, just keeping a diverse circle, and especially on social media too. I think that's just super, super important because trust me, like the way you grew up and the way you think is not the only thing out there. Like, and that was something that like really hit me when I got to college. Like, I mean, it really opened my eyes to like, I took a religion class and it just blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of things I was not taught, and that's cool. And it's like, and a professor is teaching it. So like to a certain, like it's books and documented and, like this really happened versus the cookie cutter Sunday school stuff that we got so much of. So I don't know. Well, challenge yourself, challenge your beliefs, man. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that was a big thing, that problem, I guess, that I had. Even my brother, like we've talked about this because we were in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, on the weekend, like doing whatever church function. And it became so ingrained in you that anything different was not okay. And you couldn't ask questions. And so it's just like, then when I became an adult, more so after my mom passed away, because even when she was still alive, it was like, oh, I have to be careful, like what I say or do. I don't want to make her mad. But after that, it was just like, my dad was a lot easier to ask questions and talk to him about stuff. And so it was just like, I had all of these questions because I'm like, who said that that's why? Or who said that this is how it should be done? Or who said this, or that? Like, I had so many questions, and there's so many things that I have either changed my perspective on, or I have a better understanding of like, that there's another side, that it's not just black and white. And I think that's most issues. Like, I'm very, 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 very centered. I don't really lean right. I don't really lean left. I'm in the gray, and I'm like, there's so much gray that I'm just like, I don't see how some people can be right or left because I'm not. It's like there's so much gray. Like you can't, like, getting out of the gray is like very, very minimal. I'm like, I don't know if there's anything that I could think of that I'm like, okay, this is black and white. I'm sure if I sat long enough, there's something I could come up with, but there's very, very, very few things that I'm like, okay, this is black and white, because I'm like, there's always, you don't know somebody else's situation. You don't know what they're going through.
Don't be murdering people. Black and white. Or something like that.
If you're gray areas on that.
Yeah, I guess self-defense and stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, self-defense, and if you mess with my daughter, we've already had this conversation. We'll go visit my husband in prison. There you go. I mean, there's some. I'm not saying that it's necessarily like okay to murder, but I'm like, that's a gray area that we are willing to cross. So
that's true. Okay.
Just know that it will happen.
I love that. A quick question. Have you ever seen Bulletproof? Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans, early 90s?
Possibly, knowing my husband, but I don't know that I remember the name.
Adam Sandler's like, he says, enough of this black and white stuff. Like, there's so much room in the gray area. So that made me think of that.
I need to go watch that movie now.
It's really funny.
But I'm just like, there's all this gray area. And when you have a diverse group of people, like I feel like that also takes away the stereotypes and like the, oh, well, this group of people is like this and this group of people is like that. If you get to really know people, there's not what the media portrays, there's not all of this hate, and everybody doesn't hate everybody. Everybody wants the same things. Everybody wants to be successful. Like, there's not a whole lot of, maybe 1% of the people that want other people to not succeed and not be successful. But outside of that, like, everybody is rooting for everybody. Yeah. But I think that's a hard mentality to get out of if that's what you've been taught your entire life. Yeah. Or if anything's ever happened to you, or if you see things like, but I'm like, but just because you have an instance or even a few instances of that doesn't make a generalization. That's just, again, going back to peer-reviewed articles, a lot of the times what they'll say is like, we need further studies with a larger sample size, because if you only have 5 subjects, that's not enough to make a generalization. Right. So if you have 5 instances out of your 40 years, well, that's not the rest of the world. That's 5 people that were jerks. Right. So, do you have anything else you want to say about any of those topics?
No, that was good.
Yeah, I feel like you got more into it and didn't avoid the conflict as much.
Hey, let's get into it. Right. Nah, there's certain things I'll definitely speak up on, but
I love it.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being
interim co-host as long as you need me.
Yeah.
These are fun.
I'll try to let you know more ahead of time next time.
Hey, I'm like off the cuff, so appreciate you. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and we'll do this again.
Yes.